So Julia, you're an attorney and you're using our organization as one of your preferred partners. Can you tell us a little bit about who you are and why you're choosing us?
Perfect, yes. Well, I'm an attorney in Brazil and I'm currently living in Italy, and I have business in Brazil and in Portugal. And I decided to choose your company because of the reputation that I've seen it, right? I made a kind of a due diligence myself. So that's why I came to you, and I decided to work with you because I think that the process is very, how can I say, is trustworthy, right? It's something that we touch basically with our hands. So as being a lawyer, so we need documents, we need things, we need to see things. And I could see a lot of things, even in the website and YouTube, and all the information that you send is very, very clear. So that's why I decided to contact you.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Love to have you on board. And
thank you very much.
Hey there, it's Joel Sadler here again from Line of Credit's Strategic Partnerships team. We often get a lot of questions asked from our clients and brokers, and so we do our best to answer them in short video clips. Disclaimer is always that obviously it's not financial or legal or accounting advice, it's solely for educational and informational purposes. And often the information we just pick up from working with our clients, and it's quite interesting to share those in answers to questions and in general videos as well. So look, this question is about the difference between, what is the difference between using an escrow type service and a custodian account to transfer money? So look, there's really three ways that we've seen to transfer monies. There's obviously probably more, but that we commonly come across, I should say. The first one is where, let's take the example where I was a borrower and I wanted to buy a $10 million hotel when I was raising funds to do that, and I was reaching out to investors. So the first option would be for me to ask you as a potential investor, hey, can you please wire me $3 million? And send you my personal account information or my company information, and you wire the money through. I would hope that alarm bells would ring in your head on that, because obviously it's probably one of the most risky transactions that can be done and most dangerous ones. Obviously, because sure, there may be a relationship there, but essentially there's not a lot of accountability. It's a transaction that's gone through. There's not a lot of tracing or receipts in place, and potentially no asset tracking in place as well. So we have seen that from time to time, and obviously there's many stories out there of people doing those sort of things and being scammed essentially, and losing the money. No backstop or safety in place for that. So we wouldn't recommend that approach. The second and very common option in the industry is using an escrow account, a third-party solicitor's escrow account. Now, this is not just any old law firm down the road. It actually would be a reputable law firm where myself as the borrower, I would go and speak with the law firm about setting up a third-party fiduciary and using their escrow account essentially to gather the funds into either from a single investor, or, for example, in your case, you are wanting to invest $3 million into the $10 million project. That money would then get transferred into the solicitor's escrow account and be held in this third-party account. Now, what that obviously does is brings an element of credibility to the entire project and the transaction. There's a reputable law firm that's acting as an escrow agent. They're used to doing it, authorized to do it, and it's a common practice in the industry. It also means for me as the borrower, I can be a lot more credible in my offer, a lot more transparent, and obviously if I'm gathering smaller amounts to make up that $10 million, then each of the parties generally feel a lot safer transferring money into a solicitor's escrow account. Now, obviously, there are escrow fees involved with that. Actually, I should say one thing is that the solicitor, when those monies are released to the project, the solicitor will only release those monies to the project. For example, the hotel purchase, which has been legitimately insured by contracts and arrangements. The solicitor would have seen those, and that's where the funds will be released to, as opposed to going into my back pocket, for example, to buy do something with the money, buy something with it. Now there are fees associated with that, and those fees are on the investor, so that'd be on you if you were depositing the $3 million through. There are fees that the law firm charges to hold that money in the escrow account. They're not exorbitant, but obviously they take on an element of risk and service with doing that for the client or for the investor. And also the other side of things as well, or one of the other challenges that that can happen in an escrow facility is if there's a dispute between the borrower and the investor in the project or transaction, then the solicitor or escrow agent will transfer those fees to the courts to be held until the dispute's resolved. And so the issue with that, obviously, for all parties, it can be costly and expensive to engage additional solicitors' advice or additional solicitors to go to court, essentially. And those funds will be released according to the judge's decision and after the court result is played out. So I suppose from a positive point of view, the backstop there is of having the legal system essentially to deal with any issues that come up or disputes that come up. The other interesting thing or benefit to using the escrow service is that often we'll see a lender, an investor, the investor who's putting the $3 million up, often engage the law firm to cover, help them with due diligence and to help them answer other questions or put other clauses or requirements in place. For example, the investor may say to the law firm, hey, please don't transfer my $3 million to the project until you've checked out that there's no liens against the hotel property or any other red tape that may come up. So it's a very similar type of process to, I suppose, buying a residential or commercial property or transaction. The funds are held in a third-party account, and then they move forward once all the pieces are in place and there's a legal system and processes in place as protection. The other option that we get asked about a lot is the custodian account option. Now, the custodian account option provides other mechanisms for safety, and from what I understand is probably one of the most attractive options for investors to use to transfer money. So first of all, a custodian account is opened with a reputable bank. The money is transferred into that custodian account and it stays under the investor's name. So that's the first thing. The money doesn't leave to another party's name. So when it goes to the escrow account facility, it actually leaves and sits under the solicitor-controlled escrow account. In this case, it's sitting in an account that's under the client's name. So that's the first point. The second point is that the issuing or the bank that's holding the fees in the custodian account can issue a bond against that money as well. And so there's actually a redeemable bond now in your name that actually can also yield between 1% to 3% over a year. It can be redeemed as a safety net, I suppose, for want of a better term, for those funds. And then thirdly, an insurance wrap can be put around or against that bond as well. So there are insurance companies out there that will insure that bond. So it's a bit of a sort of three-level safety net, for want of a better word, where the investor's money is parked under a custodian account with a reputable bank. The bank issue a bond against that as well, and then there's a secure an insurance policy in place as well. That's an option. Now, those are the positives out of that for the investor, obviously. Now, for the borrower, which is me, it means a lot more work, red tape, not necessarily red tape, but work in terms of negotiating with that bank, paying interest rates. So I would then borrow against that money that the investors put in the account, and I'd be borrowing from the bank, not borrowing from the investor, borrowing from the bank. So obviously I've got to pay interest on that money, on that facility. There's legal fees, there's all sorts of fees in the background, and that's on me in this case, as opposed to the investor with the escrow account. They pay escrow fees. In this case, all of the fees and custodian fees related are on me, the borrower. So essentially what that means is ultimately, as an investor, as a borrower, I'm using the investor's funds, and paying a return on those use of funds. And so in the custodian account, there are a lot more fees and interest rates associated with that program or with that facility. So often the rate of return that the borrower, which is myself, can pay back to the investor is generally lower with the custodian option because of the costs associated with it as well, and the complexities as well. And also there's an element of risk that I'm taking on board. Say the project was to default for whatever reason, that risk is on me, not on the investor. Your money's under an account under your own name, you've got a bond in place, and there's even an insurance wrap in place if you want it. So the full risk is being taken on board by me, the borrower, with the banks. And so essentially that's why the benefits are strongly in favour of the investor, of course. You have a contract with the bank, and I have a contract with the bank to borrow money from the bank, and essentially it's heavily weighted in favour of the investor. One of the questions that we regularly get asked, and is obviously can be common in any industry, is lawsuits, and why have we not got lawsuits against Line of Credit? There's a twofold answer to that. The first answer is a simple answer and a truthful answer, is that you'll notice with our team is that we are all ethical people and we come from a win-win point of view. And so our goal is obviously to make an impact on the world and work with vision-driven entrepreneurs, and our reputation is precious to us. And so we always come from an angle of win-win and ethics. Now that's obviously a corporate, I suppose, cookie cutter type of answer, but it does have truth to it. And I think once you work with any of our team members, you'll find that to be true. Second is probably more of a practical answer, and that's really comes down to the size of Line of Credit. So far, our CEO, Taimour Zaman, has operated quite a boutique sort of niche service. And I suppose just from a volume point of view, you know, it's a small operation. As you know, most corporates operate large, huge budgets, and they often have a significant budget to deal with lawsuits, and they may even have an in-house legal team that they hire and pay a lot of money to in-house, or they outsource it to law firms depending on the situation and what industry they're in. So look, I think as Line of Credit does grow and we do spread our wings and start to expand our activity this year and beyond, that lawsuits are inevitable in any industry. And I think we're prepared for that. We have legal counsel and legal teams on hand to deal with it. Yeah, I think the answer to that is practically is that we've just been more of a boutique niche type firm at this stage. Moving forward, you know, we are expecting at some stage to have a lawsuit or some dispute of some sort. It's just inevitable with any business that grows. So I think that's a simple two-part answer to the question. And yeah, thank you for the question, and we look forward to more of them. And I'll see you next time. Thank you.
Sir, we are very new with the SBLC process. What we are going through right now with a lot of our customers, an option of paying out to us. We had only a blur knowledge of what SBLC is and whatever Google has shown us. But after talking to you, discussing with you, we have come to know exactly how SBLC works and what are the best possible ways of making or getting more. How can we leverage more on that SBLC?
And basically with Taimour just get things done. And basically he's the guy when you have a problem, he's the guy that you're gonna call to get the problem solved. So,
now I'm gonna get 10,000 calls that I don't need.
But the time and the explanation that you put forward for us was so interesting that, you know, we are now drawn in with complete confidence and trust, hoping that our future relationship is, you know, much more beneficial for us. And, you know, it is a give and take that, you know, we are really happy to do because you're bringing a lot on our plate, and it is going to really benefit not only us, but our future generation.
Awesome. Thanks so much for giving me some of your time and your trust. I really appreciate it.